Good evening, I'm Shamesa Rahman and you're watching Analyzed. If we look at today's show in respect to the fact that it was the 25th of December, a few days ago, and we talk about that in a particular context, I want to talk about harmony. I want to talk about a peaceful coexistence, not just in Pakistan between various sects within the same religious community, but between all communities, and not just within Pakistan, but also globally. We have to move beyond this and look at humanity, because humanity is what will take us forward. If we were to sit and analyze, as the show suggests, and as you can see in the backdrop behind me, if you want to analyze any particular religion, whether we subscribe to the beliefs or not, it is about tolerance. It's about patience. It's about growth spiritually. And all of these factors are extremely important, especially today when we see that, various countries are at war. Countries such as Pakistan, if I dare say so, are being used as a proxy battleground. What are the ingredients that are required to actually inculcate this sense of responsibility and tolerance amongst our youth, which are approximately more than 60% of our population according to our last census? Perhaps it could be more. And if we are to inculcate it in them, what are the steps that we have to take? Perhaps a better understanding of each other. Perhaps the knowledge has to start from a reformed textbook in the schools, that are actually facilitating education in the public sector. I'm not talking about the private sector right now. And what are the steps that we as individuals and families can take, because conditioning, as always, begins at home. And when I'm talking about tolerance, I'm not just talking about tolerance between communities. It also has to be tolerance towards, people who are of the weaker sex. I'm not being a feminist, but I would say women, children. I would even say humanity and kindness towards animals. Simple things like this can actually reform and change a society. And to discuss all of this, we are joined today by Dr. Naeem Mushtaq. He is a religious scholar. He has written multiple books, and I'm truly grateful that yet again he's taken out the time to join us. Assalamu alaikum ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are joined by Mr. Albert David, who is the chairman for the United Christian Movement. I'm sure you've seen him on PTV before, but he has taken out the time to come on our show to discuss all these issues. Assalamu alaikum ji. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Naeem, I'd like to start with you. I mentioned a couple of things, the ingredient. The ingredient is humanity. So let's talk about that. Where do we start from? Do we start from the textbooks? Do we start from the home environment? Or do we leave it up to the state?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allow me to analyze the last 200 years of Indo-Pak subcontinent.
Okay.
What is happening in the past. If we analyze the last 200 years of Christian-Muslim dialogue, we will see our main focus has been God and theology. If I go to a bookshop in Islamabad or Lahore or anywhere in Pakistan or even in India, I will find books on Christian-Muslim dialogue on these topics. Number one, is the Bible God's word or not? Is the Holy Prophet Muhammad true prophet of God or not? Is Jesus God or not? Should we believe in the Trinity or Tawheed? So if you analyze all these topics, the focus is on God and theology. And apart from this theological focus, there are certain attitudes in the writings, in the books. And some of those attitudes are, number one, we are peacemakers and they are troublemakers. We will go to heaven and they will go to hell. We are right and they are wrong. We are believers and they are disbelievers.
Okay.
So this is a kind of literature we are reading in the universities of Pakistan, in the book shops, and the focus is on proving that we are superior and they are inferior. Now what we need to do in order to bring positive change in Pakistan, we need to redefine what is interfaith dialogue to us. And as far as my study of the four Gospels, the New Testament, and the study of the genuine Islam according to Quran and Sunnah, the interfaith dialogue defined by Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Jesus Christ in the New Testament is that interfaith dialogue is a process of sharing the pain and suffering of a human being regardless of his faith, color or nationality. The process of dialogue is not about becoming superior, it is about becoming human.
Okay.
This is what interfaith dialogue is. The true love of God can be experienced through social service by helping the poor and needy in our society. And this definition is based on the teachings of Jesus Christ as mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew in chapter 25. So a true dialogue according to Christianity and Islam is the dialogue is not about preaching but sharing. Dialogue is not about converting but serving. It's not about winning but loving. It's not about proving but understanding. The focus of the dialogue is that according to my faith, if I'm a Muslim or a Christian, how can I help the other human being develop in his own faith? As a Christian, how can I help my Muslim brother to grow in his Muslim faith by helping him, by sharing his pain and suffering? And how as a Muslim, I can help my Christian brother grow in his faith by helping in sharing his suffering.
We'll discuss that. I just don't want to stick, when I talk about interfaith, I mentioned a statistic before the show started as to what I know. I think that, again, I will say according to our last census, approximately minorities are about 3 point something percent of our countries. And that there are not just Christians. There's also the Zoroastrians, there's also Hindus. So when we talk about interfaith, we're not just limiting ourselves.
Absolutely not. But the concept will be applied to all the faiths.
Okay.
The concept should be that instead of focusing on God, God wants us to focus on human beings in His holy books. We read holy books and we start focusing God, ignoring the people. God says, if you want to protect my religion, my message, start protecting people. Start sharing the pain and suffering of human beings. Once you take care of them, you will find me with them. So the true God, His love, His nearness, His closeness, you can experience by sharing the pain and suffering of other human being. Our focus, the problem is our focus is on making God happy. And He says, if you want to make me happy, focus on people.
No, but I had this conversation with a religious scholar earlier. It's somebody, who I listen to. And he said that it is binding on you to pray 5 times a day.
Yeah.
It is binding on you to give charity. It is not binding on you to help people, but that is something you must do. That is the one thing that you must do. Because the way to get to God is to help humanity. If you don't do that, then you're nowhere.
Exactly. There's a verse in the Holy Quran that I have created jinns and humans only for the sake of worship. The word worship is defined by Imam Ghazali and other commentators that the concept of worship in Islam is not just the prayers of the 5 times. It is a continuous process, 24 hours a day. So when you come out from the mosque, that is a part of your worship. When you talk to someone, try to help one.
Even a smile, even to greet somebody. Why do we say salam? Why do we say peace be upon you?
So your question, we can start by revising the curriculum.
The curriculum.
Exactly. Because that is where we will get the conscious.
Okay, we will come to the curriculum, but
both
David,
in the schools, universities, madrasas, on the TV channels, we need to change our focus from theology to humans.
Okay, well, I think theology should be about humanity.
Exactly. But
the context needs to change. It's not the word, it's how you use it.
You can find theology in humans.
Yes.
This is what I mean.
Exactly. I'd like to come to you, Mr. David. You are the chairman for the United Christian Movement.
Yes.
Tell me this, because this is your area of specialization, as I would say, because I normally do political shows, and today I'm doing a more different show. I'd like to know, historically, one thing that has been negated, or perhaps not acknowledged enough, is the movement that the Christian community played in the creation of Pakistan. Nobody talks about that. It's not mentioned. It's as though they were not even there. We had this conversation, Dr. Saab. What is the role that the Christian community played? For the viewers to understand.
Exactly. I mean, I'll just take the lead from where Dr. Saab ended the curriculum, right? Okay. Why, and this is a question.
I'll come to the curriculum. I've noted that point down. Because
what I'm going to say is that why isn't Cecil Chaudhry mentioned in the curriculum? I mean, he was a hero, right? So that's what the basis is. Why isn't Diwan Bahadur S.P. Singh's role made part of the curriculum when children read history, when they read social studies, when they read Pakistan studies? Until we grow a generation who is aware of the role of non-Muslim Pakistanis in the creation of Pakistan, in the development of Pakistan, we will not be able to grow a harmonious society.
So you're saying currently we're not harmonious?
But
There's
at the minute, there is a gap. And
Okay, there is a gap.
There is a gap. And you see, Dr. Saab and I were talking is that we have to work very hard to prove our identity or prove our loyalty,
But
right?
don't you think it's absurd
It is.
to tell you quite honestly that the majority of, I think, myself included, and a lot of people who are in politics or come from very influential families, they all went to missionary schools?
Exactly. You see, that's
You
it.
know what I mean? It's almost like Kafkaesque
It
in
is.
that sense.
It is. It is. Matlab, if you just go back, the first 30 to 35 years of Pakistan's education, it was the missionary
It still
institutes.
is. It's the hardest schools to get into right
Exactly,
now.
exactly. I mean, still at the minute, if you look at, we are the second biggest network of education in Pakistan after the government sector,
Absolutely.
right? So we
True.
are playing a very important role, but on the other hand, you see, when we look at the curriculum, that is what is missing. And I say this again, that why isn't Cecil Chaudhary's role in the textbooks? Right? Why doesn't a Muslim child know about Cecil Chaudhary?
I think quite a few do.
No, but
But not
why
in the
isn't?
public sector.
But not in the public sector, right?
Okay.
And when you started with youth and children, and
Yes.
I think that is very
It's important.
It is very important because we, the grown-up people, we already are polluted. Right? We
I
have
should hope
polluted.
not.
No, you see, we have polluted minds. We have our own ideas.
Okay.
What religion is,
Okay.
how we how we are to treat people from other religions. But if we focus on children, and if we grow up a generation that loves each other, for them religion is not an issue. They are just Pakistanis, and that's it. And if we grow that generation, I think 10 years, 20 years,
But isn't that
25.
something your family should teach you?
It is.
Talking from personal experience, isn't that something that your family should teach you? Regardless of whether you go to church or you go to the mosque or you go to a synagogue or you go to a temple, your family has to inculcate that in you, that kindness and humanity. How do you put that in a textbook? I will come to the textbook.
Exactly. But Shumaisa,
Because that's the older generation.
Exactly. Shumaisa, but on the other hand, Shumaisa, what we have to look at, what is the present, how the society, how the families are running, what is dominating us. I mean, at the minute, it's religion, right? It is. I mean,
I think
we
it's more
want
economic, to be honest with you.
see-
I look at things a little differently.
I
think
right, it could
economics
be.
can redefine anything.
But on the other hand, what do we want our children? I mean, if I look at a Christian family, I want my child to go to the Sunday school. I want my child to read Bible. Similarly, the other religions, they are more focused on their own religion, and they want their children to be brought up in that way. And we are not letting our children to study other religions.
Okay.
Right? If we let our children to study other religions, if we talk about other religions at home, that we don't do, right? We are just focused on what we are. And that is what I'm saying, is that we have to grow a generation who is more Pakistani
What
than...
really, really surprised me, and I will come back to
Right.
you, Dr. Neem, what really surprised me was about a few years ago, when I wasn't living in Pakistan. This is a personal thing I'd like to share. I asked my grandfather to get me the Quran, and he got it from Saudi Arabia. In that, wherever there was a translation, because I don't understand Arabic, I can read it, but I don't. Wherever there was a translation, there were footnotes that this is the reference to the Old Testament, this is the reference to the New Testament, this is the agreement, this is the disagreement. It was very comprehensive. Now that was enough. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Are you saying that most families in Pakistan are not doing this? They're not educating their children about other religions?
Well, the knowledge is available, but the focus is perception.
Okay, before we come to that, tell me this. How many families actually even understand I'm talking about Muslim families. Let's talk about 97% of the population. How many Muslim families or parents are actually able to even educate their children about what is in the Quran?
Very few.
Very few.
Very few. They read for sawab, not for knowledge.
They don't educate their children. I know that my entire knowledge comes from what my grandfather or my grandmother taught me
And
as a child,
these
as
families
a
are
2-year-old,
exceptional
3-year-old.
cases. Yeah.
But it doesn't happen, does it?
Yeah,
So we
that's
leave it up to somebody else, that they will give the
Exactly.
translation.
Exactly.
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 Terrorism should be kept separate from religious teachings, but we are mixing the both. This is my point. And also we are mixing politics with with religion, comparative study of the religion.
Don't you remember what Karl Marx said? He said religion is the opiate of the people.
Exactly, but what
That
we are
if you
doing
want, you can use religion
Exactly.
to
But-
sort of, move people in whatever way you want
exactly, and this is what I'm saying, that in Pakistan, Christianity is linked with the American foreign policy.
to. I was going to
and
come to
America.
that, you
Exactly.
shouldn't link
Exactly. This is my point.
Christianity to, the neocons or to what America is doing
Exactly.
or to what is happening in Israel.
Exactly.
There is no connection.
There
Exactly.
isn't.
So
There
my point
isn't.
is this: if you want to understand Christianity, you should study the text of the Holy Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ. That is the real source of understanding Christianity. Don't link religion with with a country's foreign policy. Similarly, if you want to understand Islam, don't learn Islam from the foreign policy of Pakistan. Study
Or
Quran and
from
Sunnah
any,
directly.
I find it absurd, when I'm traveling, I'll come back to you, Ms. David. I find it absurd that when I'm traveling, they'll say, well, you're very tolerant, you can't be Muslim. I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? Because they do the same thing.
Exactly.
They link my religion with a certain form of extremism.
Exactly.
They do not differentiate between whether I'm Pakistani or, I'm Arab or, I'm from any other country. It's just across the
Exactly.
range. And the funniest thing I've ever heard is I was sitting at a lunch and somebody said, I said, well, it's Pakistani food. They said, oh, we love Middle Eastern food. And I said, but it's two different things.
Exactly. Exactly.
So why does this happen? Why do people link Christianity or Islam with certain countries or certain movements? Again, back to humanity. Why not as individuals?
Exactly. Shumesa, you see, again, Dr. Saab and I were discussing this, is that for us as Pakistani Christians, it has become very difficult. What Dr. Saab said is that everything that America does is linked with us, that as if we are part of what is happening.
And how could you be part of what's happening over there?
Exactly.
You're sitting over here in Pakistan.
Exactly. And there have been several incidents where we have been attacked for what has been done in the West or in America. For us, the problem is that we are stuck somewhere in between, right? In Pakistan, we are linked to the US and sort of other countries, and they see us as Pakistanis. I mean, they would never consider us as part of them.
Right.
When I travel abroad, I stand in the same queue where all Pakistanis stand. They do not differentiate.
They don't differentiate,
because
no.
I'm Albert David, so I should be separate. So you see, that's the dilemma that we as Christians or non-Muslims in Pakistan currently are facing. What I think and what we should be doing as non-Muslim Pakistanis is that we have also isolated ourselves, right? What we have to do is that
You're
we
saying
have
that
to
as non-Muslim Pakistanis, you've isolated yourself.
we have.
You have.
Right, we have.
Okay, that's an interesting sentence.
Right. Okay. Now,
Please
I'll
elaborate.
come to that. Is because what we do is what we talk all about is the issues which are our issues. We do not, at times, or I would say largely, own Pakistan. Right.
I have seen various instances where I can quote that even before, the Muslim Pakistanis came forward, we saw the Christian community come forward and condemn, an atrocity. I've seen that happen.
It happens. It happens.
Okay.
Right. But on the other, what I want to say is that now is the time that where we should come forward. We should have stakes in Pakistan, and we should own Pakistan, and we should not just talk about blasphemy, we should be talking about terrorism as a whole. We should be talking about the energy crisis. We should be talking about corruption in Pakistan. We should be talking about governance issues in Pakistan. You see, until we become part of the mainstream issues of Pakistan, until we just sit in a corner and we just cry about our own issues, people
But
will
this is not just a problem, I would call it a problem, if that is what you've This is not just a problem, Dr. Naeem, with, as he's referring to the Christian community. We have also seen this happen with the Zoroastrian community. At least within the Christian community, there is some leeway to, to marry outside the community, to intermingle. We've seen that, if we go back into history and if we look at when, they came from Persia, and I think you know the story very well. They said, well, you can come into the subcontinent, but, you cannot assimilate the way you should. So this problem of holding back, of not assimilating, is not just restricted to one, minority. It's reflected on various ones.
Exactly.
How do we tackle this? Do they come forward? Do we reach out? Or is it going to be, as I would say in foreign policy, a bilateral cooperation
It would be.
treaty?
It has to be a teamwork.
Okay.
Both
It has to
parties need to realize their sense of responsibilities. For example, the way comparative religion is taught in Pakistan, that Christianity is being taught by a Muslim scholar.
Is comparative religion taught in public schools?
Yeah, Islamic
I went
studies.
to a private school, so
you will
I
see.
don't know.
And Hinduism is being taught by a Muslim scholar. Judaism is taught by a Muslim scholar. So I suggest when we add this section of Christianity in our curriculum, invite Christian leadership to tell us what they think of their religion. And when we design the curriculum, we should focus on similarities and commonalities to see how well we are connected rather than focusing on differences and what makes us so different from one another. So right now, the comparative religions curriculum in Pakistan is focused on creating more differences
It is.
so that they can be they and we can be us.
But there is nothing that can dispel these notions more than connectivity between people. When you go to somebody's house for lunch or dinner, when you meet their family, all these notions are dispelled. I grew up in a very multicultural city, I think Karachi is, and for us, these notions were obviously dispelled because you go to school with people from every faith. Even within Islam, there's various sects, it was just fine.
Exactly.
But I find that human interaction is what is missing. So, yes, change the curriculum, but what about the connectivity?
Connectivity, I think for this purpose in Islamic communities, you need to promote Sufi culture.
Okay.
Because if you promote theology, theology is more on maintaining your identity in this world. Theology focus on who you are. So there's a difference between who they are and who you are.
Okay.
But when you add Sufi tone in that theological concept, Sufis, they focus on human beings. They focus on serving one another. This is what I said. The real interfaith dialogue, the real Islam is all in social services.
But how can you say what's real and how can I say what's not real? It's subject to public opinion.
In theology, it is very clearly mentioned that when you go and see a Christian brother who is sick, hungry, or even sick, when you are visiting him, when you are sharing the pain and suffering of another human being, you are basically are being connected with your own God, with your own theology.
But you're saying, I think that is a message that we all get from the Quran.
Yeah, but how many people read Quran?
Okay, how many people read it? How many people actually
understand it
and interpret it?
And for that purpose, our focus on Quran is on the Sunnah, on Seerah of Holy Prophet Muhammad for our political and economical aims.
And that is the most important thing. Have we seen what an exemplary figure he was?
Yeah, but
patience, negotiations, when to go to war, when to not go to war.
Exactly.
Taking care of orphans, widows.
That human aspect of his prophethood is not clearly preached in our community. This is what I mean.
It's not preached.
He has been, I would say, promoted as a prophet, but not as a human being. Every prophet is a human being also. So he exercises his human emotions. He is connected to his community. Every prophet.
So you're saying it's a problem with communication of what is reaching out to people.
Exactly, and also displaying the real sense.
So what are the vehicles available, Mr. David? What are the vehicles available? Yes, textbook reform.
Yes.
Reaching out to our youth.
Exactly.
You said, again, instead of just focusing on things like the blasphemy law, focusing on what is in Pakistan's interest, such as
Exactly.
economics,
Exactly.
energy, foreign policy,
Exactly.
standing up, being a part of the community. What else?
I think, Shumesa, the other thing when we talk about the interfaith or intrafaith dialogue, we have to take that dialogue at the grassroots level. Right.
Okay.
What is happening at the minute is, and how I look at it is, that we are trying to preach the converted, right? The people who are already sort of, who know what it is. We sit in 5-star hotels, we talk about it.
But
we
isn't
get
that,
on-
but hold on,
Yes.
isn't that what Sufism and Christianity says, that it is also important to reach out to people who already are converted, who have a certain point of view, and bring them to the right path, rather than just focus on the one?
I agree on that as well. But
That's the
I'm trying to say,
humanitarian thing to do.
What I'm trying to say over here is that yes, that is happening over there, but not just over there. You know, when you look at what is happening, that is happening at the very grassroots level. The Asia Bibi case, right, she was not living in a posh sector in Islamabad.
Right.
Right. Rimsha case, where did that happen? So what we have to do is we have to bring that dialogue at the grassroots level. Right. What I think is the best way forward is the attitudinal change within the society.
How? What are the vehicles? You're going to say media, aren't you?
Media is one, but on the other hand, you know, persons, people, we have to increase that interaction.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll come
How?
back to talking more.
Talking to
about
who?
similarities, right, between the religions. Talking
No,
about
but talking to who? You can sit and have this conversation with Dr. Naeem, but I don't think it'll have a trickle-down effect. You're saying at the grassroots level, how do you do this?
And that's what I'm saying is, instead of sort of spending that much money at the very top level, filter that money down into the communities, arrange interfaith dialogues over there, use the mosque, use the church, instead of sort of just doing it in Islamabad. Take it down into the communities. Let people talk to each other. Let them talk about similarities.
Let them have an argument if they like, and let
Exactly.
them sort it out.
Exactly. I mean, you can't just sit and wait and do stuff at the top, because what happens in our community or in our system is that at the top things seem very good, but they do not trickle down. Right? Constitution, right? It gives sort of all sorts of assurances to the minorities, right? But who's going to stand up for my rights? It's my neighbor first. It's my neighbor who has to protect me. And if I don't have that relationship with my neighbor, if I don't have that relationship within my community, within the society, who's going to stand up for me? You're talking about humanity. And I remember a quote. It says that the moment we stop fighting for each other, that's the moment when we lose our humanity. Right? We have to fight, we have to stand up for each other at the very grassroots level.
So then you have to educate at the grassroots level. How?
Exactly. One concept about minorities, we have to stop using the word minorities, because they put them into a difficult position.
It does.
I believe they are minorities. They are minority in numbers, not in status.
Exactly.
They enjoy
That's a very
equal,
valid point.
Yeah, they enjoy equal rights. Political will is very important to support this process of talking to one another. So unless there is a governmental support to support this process, there will not be real change, because some of the key institutions, they have the power to manage those institutions. We as the people of Pakistan, we can join hands with the government, we can join hands with the political will to bring this change.
Okay.
But if we are bringing or trying to bring change at our level, and there is no support from the government level, it is going to be wasted. People may change slowly.
So at the grassroots level, and then also at the government
top level. It's
So
a teamwork.
top
It's
to
a
bottom.
teamwork. We cannot blame one another. I'm also responsible. He's also responsible. You as from the media representative, you are also responsible. Everyone has to play its own role. And we have to make sure that Pakistan is a safe place for every citizen.
Is it really? I believe since the war on terror started, we've lost statistically about 50,000 Pakistanis, including civilians, including our military personnel.
Exactly.
I don't think anybody's had to pay such a heavy price.
What I'm saying, the will of the government needs to be strong. Focus should be dedicated.
I think
Issues
the
can be
will is
handled.
there. I think that the will is there.
The will is there. Maybe
But
they
how
need
do you
to
implement
take
it?
certain more steps. Or
That's what
maybe-
I'm saying.
yeah.
What are the steps that need to be taken?
First, from my point of view,
You're saying textbooks.
textbook number
You're
one.
saying grassroots level.
Exactly.
Then you're saying at the top political level.
Their support is important to revise the curriculum.
Okay.
Number one. Secondly, bring bright-minded scholars from the Muslim community, from the Christian community, from the Hindu community, or from the community of all the minorities groups. Bring them into the in this team, mainstream, and then ask them to deliver or maybe revise the curriculum with their help and support. Because if the government does it and they don't have any part in it, they will react.
Okay.
This will be revision will be another problem.
I think the government, not this government, but I believe the previous governments have tried. They've tried to actually revise, they've tried to bring things into their fold, but there is such severe opposition to it.
It will take some time, slowly, one step at a time. Things are better as compared to past.
Okay.
Things will be better in the future. It's a long process. It took 30 or 40 years to
reach
bring-
this stage.
Yeah. So it
You're
is
saying
not-
another 30, 40 years?
No, I'm
Please
not
don't say
saying
that.
that.
But
But it
Shumai
will
sir-
take some time, slowly. You see people, a few years, 10 years back, they have no idea what is interfaith dialogue. Now everyone is talking about it. Now Christian priests and Muslim scholars, they are getting together in the mosque, in the church to celebrate Christmas and Miladun Nabi. Change is there, but we need to highlight more similarities and commonalities.
Focus
and
on the
change
positive.
Exactly, in the media. Instead of focusing who killed who, why not focus on who get together in the mosque and the church? So once the focus is changed in the media and in the government, things will remain there. But by delivering a better focus to the viewers, to the community, people will start accepting change one step at a time.
Okay.
And Shumai
Mr.
sir,
David, you
I'll
wanted
just
to-
sort of when Dr. was talking about the government and the society, and what I personally believe is that the change that is more durable is the change that comes from within the community, right?
Okay.
Where people themselves acknowledge a problem and they work to resolve it. And when they do it, when they come up with a solution, that is more durable. But yes, Dr. Saab said, yes, we
So a
need
homegrown solution.
It is a homegrown solution.
The way I think it should be a homegrown solution for Pakistan's
to be.
economy as well. It can't be an exterior.
Exactly. So again, coming back to that, I think we need to increase that dialogue between the communities rather than individuals.
Look, I could be completely illiterate and wrong over here, or perhaps I am the deviation and I am not what is the norm. I have always seen that there is a dialogue, at least, where I grew up. I see that with my daughter as well, that there is a dialogue, but yet you seem to be saying that there isn't.
There
across
is,
the-
No, there
but we
is.
need to change the contents.
There
This is what I mean.
There is.
And it's a very positive dialogue from what I've seen.
But Shumai sir, what we have to look at is that where are the actual problems? And the actual problems are not in the metropolitans. They are not in the big
Okay,
cities.
you're stressing that again and again.
Exactly. I mean, we have
understand.
more education in big cities, right, in metropolitans. The problem lies
Is in
back
the 70% of Pakistan, which is the rural.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, right? Where the education level is low on both sides. I mean, it's a common thing, not just for Christians or for Muslims or anyone. It's the same for everyone. That's, I think, where the problem is, and that's where we have to focus.
Then first you have to give those 70% of people education to begin with. If you don't, if you're
Exactly.
talking about textbooks,
That's-
they must go to school to read those textbooks.
But one thing we can do at the family level
Okay.
is when the family is involved in dialogue on a daily basis. The dialogue in the family the focus should be on creating good human beings.
Yes.
If I belong to a Muslim family, my father focus should be on me is to brought up a good human and a good Muslim. Similarly, in the Christian family, the focus should be on bringing up a good human being and a good Christians. Let us focus on...
What about being a good Pakistani?
That's what I'm saying. Once you learn to
That's
be
the most important thing.
exactly. When you learn to be a good Pakistani, a good human being, or a good Christian and a good human being, you will automatically convert into a good Pakistani. Because being a Pakistani is not something against being a Christian or a Muslim or being a good human being. Good Pakistani means a good follower of his faith and a good human being. And this becomes the combination of two becomes a good Pakistani.
Okay, so raising a good family.
Yeah. So the
Raising
focus
good
within the
children.
family is not that my father start teaching me what is Christianity or Judaism. No, he should start
Be a good
teaching
person.
me a good person and what it mean to be a good Muslim.
And yes, please.
And Shamesa, sorry, I was just
No,
again
please, go
something
ahead.
just popped up is that our slogan has been "Main bhi Pakistan hu," and that is not just for sort of the Muslims in Pakistan to tell them that I'm also a Pakistani. For us as well, that yes, I am a Pakistani too, and I have to act and work like a Pakistani, not alienate myself, not isolate myself. That I'm not part of Pakistan, I'm not part of this society, I'm an alien.
At the risk of sounding completely absurd, do you think, and I will use that word minority because there's no other word to...
For the
Non-Muslim
numbers,
Pakistanis.
Non-Muslim Pakistanis.
Non-Muslim
For
Pakistanis.
for non-Muslim Pakistanis, is there a sense of alienation?
There is.
There is.
And I think, not being negative, I think that is increasing.
Okay.
The increasing extremism, right, in our society as a whole.
As a whole.
As a whole. I mean, it's as a whole. I think that thing is increasing.
So it is. Dr. Naeem, how can we stop that? That sense of alienation, because God forbid nobody would like to feel that they're part of society but yet on the outskirts. It's not a good
I
feeling.
think number one priority should be economical stability of the country. Number one thing. Once the money goes in, you have something to eat, you can think better.
Economics, this is what I was saying.
Exactly.
Economics
I'll come
is
back
the
to that
most
as well.
important thing.
I've got to say something
Yes,
as well about
you
that.
can go ahead.
What I was saying is that for us, the three things that we as Christians or Pakistan United Christian Movement, what we are working on, the 3 E's, right? It's equality, it's education, and it's economic empowerment. Right.
Well, I think those 3 E's, out of those 3 E's, 2 are very similar to the current government slogan: economic, energy, and then they're moving to education. But equality, absolutely.
It's equality. We have to ensure that, first of all, we are Pakistanis, and the law and the society treats everyone as an
Equally.
equal citizen.
I'll tell
of
you, as a
Pakistan.
woman, quite honestly, I don't think I get treated equally very often.
Exactly.
You know, I'm not going to deny that. I don't think that those human rights extend to people who are in a bad economic condition. I don't see enough old age homes. I don't see enough orphanages. I don't see enough healthcare and hospitals. That's just across the board.
It is.
So it has to do with money.
And the second thing we need to do,
Yes.
we need to deliver skill trainings to those minorities areas. Skill training, so they can survive through their skills. They don't need the approval of the bishop or the mullahs to get the job.
I think more than that, Dr. Naeem, what we need to do is we'll give everyone, I hope, inshallah, one day in Pakistan, everybody will have that access to education and skills. But I think more than that, we need to create an atmosphere which is conducive to tolerance
Exactly.
and acceptance. And I'm going to give both of you the final word because then I have to wrap up my show. What has your organization managed to accomplish as it set out to do?
Right. For us, what we are trying to do is to bring the non-Muslim Pakistanis into the mainstream of Pakistan.
Okay.
Be it economic, be it political, be it social. Until we become part of that, until we are visible, until we are vibrant, until we own everything, I think we'll just be pushed into a corner.
Okay. Thank you. And you, Dr. Naeem, all these books that you keep, reading and writing.
I'll just summarize. I think what should be the focus of interfaith dialogue is, as I just wrote, interfaith dialogue must be focused on the development of people of Pakistan with equal rights and privileges as per the vision of Quaid-e-Azam.
As per the vision of Quaid-e-Azam.
Quaid-e-Azam.
That's a beautiful thing to say. Thank you very much, both of you, for having
Thank
taken
you.
out the time. You heard the conversation. We were talking about interfaith dialogue, harmony, moving Pakistan towards a better place. I think that is only possible if we talk about commonality, a national interest, national harmony. Because at the end of the day, it is national interest that will take us forward. And humanity, of course, supersedes everything. It goes beyond race, religion, caste, creed. It's about actually helping God's people. Because each and every one of us are one of them, and we never know when we might need help. But as always, I truly hope that Pakistan is headed towards a brighter, prosperous and better future. Thank you for watching. See you next time.